are live again. It is Odessa. I'm here with you, Doctor of Natural Medicine, wellness coach, singer, multidimensional, multidisciplinary artist. And today I want to talk with you about this song that I wrote and the process of going through the lyrics. I explained to you all before that I wanted to take the next couple of videos to break down the lyrics of this song. And really give you all an understanding as to the work that I'm doing and how it all fits in together. And the theme for today is really looking at this sense of alignment that people are searching for, that we're looking and striving towards, right? And so I want to just start off by letting you all know what the lyrics are. The first lyric is, I've never had to stand on my 2 feet before. I'd rather be shown the way. Okay, so these are the first lyrics. And so that being said, I also want to let you all know that within the competition, I have been gracefully let go at 5th place, or within the top 5. I was released from the competition, and so they have continued on. But I will still be performing at the Rise and Flow Artist competition when they will release the top 1, 2, 3 in the order. So just wanted to kind of let you all know that, for those of you who have been following along and were supporting me. So thanks a lot. So the title of my song is Growing, I'll Get There. And that first lyric is, I've never had to stand on my 2 feet before. I'd rather be shown the way. So the basis of this song is about understanding cycles and healing emotional wounds. What does understanding cycles mean? What cycles are we talking about, and what are emotional cycles of emotional healing? What are these wounds that we're healing? So I just want to preface this by talking about the different cycles that we go through. We live on a circular planet, so cycles, it's normal for us, right? Think about childhood, adolescence, adulthood, and elderly age, old age. You have the cycle of reproductive health for women. You have the cycle of the seasons, you know what I mean? You have different ways of thinking and looking at life, but I want to take a moment and hone in, or I say even back up a little bit, because we get so confined in the way that we live, in the way that we think, that we don't always remember, recognize, see, or understand what it is that we're dealing with. So if we pull back a little bit, let's look at life as cycles, right? We're always navigating these different cycles, even in your physical body, right? You have your bodily functions, like you drink something, it's going to go through your system, it's going to be absorbed, it's going to go into your kidneys, they're going to filter, they're going to pass it through the bladder, and then ideally it's going to come out. So these are natural, normal functions that you do, right? We have biological rhythms. You are tired, so you sleep in the evening time at night, unless you work nights, and so you sleep during the day. But normally you would be up during the day, because that's when your circadian rhythm is functioning, your serotonin is going, and you just need to be active and doing all the things. And then at night, you know what I mean? And then same thing for women, like, during your menstrual cycle, your body's doing one particular thing, and in ovulation, your body requires something else, and different cycles require different things. Now, this also shows up, right, in your daily life, which is really interesting when people put the pieces together. And what do I mean by that? Depending on the perspective that you take, right, and the school of thought that you follow, different organs in the body, different functions in the body, different systems in the body, different, limbs, all the different things that happen within the body, they are a manifestation of what's happening on the higher realms of the person. So your spiritual being is anchored in your physical body, but it's like you walk around. I kind of see it like you walk around and your spirit kind of follows, and you go this way, and your spirit is anchored in your body, but the energetic around you is your spirit. But all aspects of yourself, past, present, future, parallel, all things here now, are in the physical body and can be experienced depending on the level of awareness, sensitivity, consciousness, all the different things, and ability to even carry this kind of information. Why do I say that? Because even in our everyday lives, we're going through these cycles, right? What am I feeling? What am I thinking? And sometimes it's related to a function. I always talk about the liver is related to anger, different levels of anger, 5 kinds of anger. You know what I mean? So sometimes when you're dealing with your liver, maybe it's because you're a very passive person and you're not used to standing up for yourself, right? Or maybe you're experiencing righteous anger, but regardless, or maybe you're stuck. And so it can show up as issues in the liver. I've also seen women in Chinese medicine, the liver connects us to blood and menstrual blood. I've seen women who don't speak and get stuck in that cycle of communication. And it was showing up in their menstrual cycle, the way that she was describing it, and when we put the pieces together, she was quite shocked and amused that the body was showing up in this way. So all of this to talk about like all of the different things we're working with, right? We're working with our shortcomings. You're doing something really great and then you fall into your shortcomings. You're doing something, you're succeeding. This particular cycle that you go through always works. And so recognizing that there's always layers that you're working through, always layers of, this particular thing is not working for me. Maybe I should stop, or I'm continuing to plow through, but I don't understand why I always have a hiccup, particularly here. Or, I do this particular work and it's just so easy for me. And I just get comfortable where I am. And that's just what it is. That's just what I do. Now, the reason why I'm setting this up is because this first lyric of I've never had to stand on my 2 feet before, I'd rather be shown the way, has to do with a certain level of comfort and a certain level of alignment that we feel that we're in. Right? Now, when in my previous videos, if you go back and watch, and we're talking about discomfort and growth and what that looks like, when there's an issue within the body, when one of the cycles is not doing what it's supposed to do, when the cycle is not cycling, you might feel a headache, or you might get a bellyache, or you might get a heartache. You know what I mean? Emotionally, if you're going through your cycles, you might get a heartache because you're suffering in a particular step of the cycle, right? And you haven't learned how to grow through and grow beyond it, right? And so you might process it in whatever way, shape, form you do. You may even go through ego ache, right? Through cycles of ego growth, personal will, alignment to the will of God, ego, and all the different things that come with that, right? And you will even experience existential crises, right? And so these kinds of issues show up when alignment gets to a point where it needs to move on, right? Now, if you were to look at the grand cycle, I don't want to drop all of the pieces. I've done it before, but we're going bit by bit, right? We're looking at alignment. I'm looking at alignment as the beginning of a cycle and the end of a previous cycle. Right? What do I mean? Well, you've gone through something and you've had a period of incubation. And in that period of incubation, you're kind of coming into a new birthing of yourself. And within that new birthing of yourself, the experience that you have is one of whatever it is, right? Sometimes what happens is we get comfortable. And because we get comfortable, we don't necessarily move and move towards the urge towards soul growth, which means that you need to do more, stretch more, be more. We like to be comfortable. I've never had to stand on my 2 feet before. I'd rather be shown the way, whether it's your childhood brought up, whether it's your circumstances as an adult, you know what I mean? Whether it's how you think amongst groups of people or just how you behave amongst yourself, right? This is a reality. So within that space of resting and alignment, right, there's this birth that comes along. And so you birth yourself, and so you come into alignment. And so while you're in there, what happens is that, there's this feeling of peace that will experience, or just a feeling of, everything is okay, or everything is going my way, or I'm comfortable, or even I'm in the habit of doing this. In the previous alignment that I had, I got stuck. And now I'm here. I think I'm the boss, or I think I'm the best, or I think I'm not good enough, or I'm not going to move on, or don't change what I've done, right? Because the alignment is aligning, right? And so what actually happens is when we start to look towards new goals, right? When we look from that perspective to add another layer from the perspective of the soul, like there's a heart's desire and an urging to move forward from where I am into something more, what happens is it's like a trigger to the universe. The universe says, oh, okay, she's ready, he's ready. Let's move her, move him, move them, they on, right, to the next level. And this will look like, crises. And so the thing is, evolution is the law in this existence, right? This third density existence on the planet that we're living here, evolution is the law. And if you're not evolving, you get stuck, you feel stuck, right? And whether you realize what cycle you're in, what pattern you're perpetuating, and whether you recognize whether you should step out of it or not, if your heart's calling and your soul's calling is deep enough, right? Or if your purpose, your calling is deep enough and things are moving around you, then what happens is it's time for you to move on. So you'll experience evolution through the perspective of discomfort, right? Now, society makes us have a false sense of alignment and a false sense of comfort, right? We tend to want everything to stay status quo, but also that's what the brain requires. The brain wants us to feel safe. The limbic brain is all about safety. So everything has to be the same. If it isn't the same, whoa, mayday, what's going on? We go into our different nervous systems, right? Dysfunctional or dysregulated nervous systems. And so what I want to say is that we live within cycles, right? And within this particular experience, I like to use that word a lot, it's important to know that evolution is a process, and it's normal and natural for us to experience discomfort, chaos, war, opposition, duality, and tension, right? Why? Because these things help us to move forward. These things, it's like, you've been here comfortable doing all the things, and all of a sudden, it's pinching, it hurts, let me wake up. I've been doused with a liquid, a fluid, I don't know what, bird pooped on me, I can't stay here anymore, right? And so you get up and you move, you look for something new, you look elsewhere, and that will create growth. Okay. So the thing is that, as I mentioned to you before, there's this false sense of alignment that we have within society, right? We often think that when we reach a level of perfection, that this is what it is, that there's no moving forward. But the truth of the matter is that, what did I say? We're always moving forward. So we get into this state of alignment, but we get comfortable with it, right? We might get rude with it. We might get belligerent with it. We might get stoic. We might stonewall. You might do all of the things. I've never had to stand on my 2 feet before. I've always had it my way. Can you do it for me? You know what I mean? Can you help me? Or, or maybe even you've just never knew, you just didn't know, right? Like you just thought that this was all it was, based on whatever conditioning you had, right? So you rely on what you know and who you are, right? What you always did to get here, because it's always worked, right? But the thing is that things fall apart. And that's what we have to start to embrace, right? Because you never saw it come. We never see it coming, even though we think we plan, even though it looks like it's foolproof. We never see it coming. We never know what's going to happen, right? And, you might think, well, hey, I wasn't delusional. I counted all my ducks. They were in the row. I crossed my T's. I dotted my I. But the truth of the matter is, it is the process of the cycle. Right? It's who we are by nature, by virtue of being here. You can fight it, but it means that, you're choosing to stay in discomfort, because things will become very obvious to you, right? So basically, I know that it's always about wanting a deeper sense or a consistent sense of alignment. That's what it is that we're searching for, right? There's this, desire to connect with your maker, or, the deepest essence of all that is, and the great universe, and merge with, like, there's a lot of people who have these feelings and desires, right, that are very deep and personal to them. And then there are those who just want to do good. There are those who want to do better. There are those who want to serve, right? And every single person who is contributing to this existence is going through these processes, these levels in your life. Where in your life are you too comfortable, right? Where in your life is there so much ease that you don't think about it anymore, right? So with this alignment, what happens is, we will look for purpose, right? You're doing things and trying to, get it all together. You're going to read the books, you're going to watch the videos, and you're going to, write the journals, and you're going to, you know what I mean? Like join the monthly free circles and do what you feel a bit inclined to do in this process, right? Because there's this alignment that you're in, that you're feeling, and so you're doing all the things. But when the soul is calling the new phase to transition in, however long, short that process is going to be, it's important to understand that that discomfort that comes up, right, is because it's time to move, it's time to grow, and it requires a deeper sense of authenticity, right? So approaching life wanting to do better and be better in your health, in your relationships, in your work, and in your personal life. But the thing is that you may not be understanding why you're getting stuck, because you're doing the things, but you're getting stuck, right? You're not seeing the ways to unravel what's going on around you, and you're not understanding that it's actually different cycles that you're going through, cycles of comfort, cycles of action, cycles of, you know what I mean? Like alignment with, your work, with your home, with your family members, right? And so this requires, to be able to sustain and to be able to understand these things, it requires, first of all, just a level of releasing of the ego, but also recognizing that there are grander cycles that are happening around us. You know what I mean? Like when you're looking to truly espouse natural medicine, holistic medicine, right? And you're healing from, all levels, and you're wanting to stand in a sense of alignment and authenticity, it requires that you start to look at what are the soul laws, what are the universal laws, what are the things that bring people together, bring me together, bring me deeper to my truth. It requires that you look at yourself in a way that is not comfortable, right? And which is leading us into this crisis. And so, but with this knowledge, right? With this knowledge of, these structures and these greater cycles around us, before we, like just jumping to the end, but like being in there, that space that we want to be in, what happens is that you begin to see the patterns, right? And the habits, and interchangeably, right? And you don't have the difficulty of knowing what's going to come. You move with the ebb and flow, as opposed to being stubborn, right? And say, no, this is what I've always had. This is how I've always eaten my food. This is how I've always done things. This is how my family has always done it. I've always done things this way. This is how I feel about this. And it's absolutely wrong. There's no changing, right? When we get stuck, right, with limiting decisions and negative emotions, right, we're not able to move out of it. But when we can see the cycles around us, within us, right, it helps us to move through it, right? You recognize that you're made of, the same, the sun, the stars, the moon, the sky, all of the elements. Yes, indeed. And that is, it's a very concrete thing. You know what I mean? Like we like habits, we like patterns, but you also begin to understand how to break out of them. You know what I mean? You may be under the influence of, but you are also above when you master them, right? So you can see the cycles, and you can work through the cycles, but you don't feel as though you fall off, because you learn how to feel secure within an exterior insecurity. And that's really important, right? That alignment, that deeper sense of alignment, comes from recognizing all the crevices and corners within the self that are not of your highest good, right? And releasing this in ways that you're able to integrate those lessons, because those pieces are of you, have contributed to who you are in the highest forms. And so it's up to us to understand that. Why? Because when you can see that in all areas of life, right, then you're able to accept the circumstances that you're in right now as they are, how you have been, and what's to come, regardless of what the change is, because you know that everything that you're doing is contributing, right? Everything that you're doing is contributing to your growth. And so that alignment is coming from a higher perspective, which is why I ask again, whose definition of alignment are you following? Right? Is it, everything has to look good all the time and I have to look a particular certain way. And when it falls off, oh my gosh, my life has fallen apart, like I can't do it again. Or could it be, everything is happening for my highest good. It always works out better than I could have ever imagined. And I recognize that when something happens, when a challenge comes my way, that there's an ability and potential for me to be able to move forward, right? Rather than be on a pedestal as society will have us. It's like we remove ourselves from that and we recognize our own humanity, right? And find ways to balance and find the ebb and flow, the 0 point within that, okay? So if you've stayed to the end, let me know by typing alignment in the comments below. And you can also go ahead and let me know what your biggest takeaway is. I just wanted to, once again, thank you all for being here with me. For those who are OGs and those who have just joined, I, recently had entered a competition for my birthday. I had decided in the last little bit, I myself am coming out of a rest period and stepping into alignment and flow in some areas of my life. And I decided to enter into this competition that was happening exactly within days of my birthday. And as a challenge to myself, I told myself over the last couple of months that I was going to step out this year. And so I did. Bringing the branding and my music together, or branding my music and my wellness company together. I'd been in the incubation period and now I'm here now. And so I'm releasing ownership of my art. Whatever art I have created, I'm releasing. And so on the 25th of April, that new single is going to drop, Growing. I'll get there. I hope that you can go to the link and pre-save. Make sure to stay tuned because I'll be talking some more about the other concepts and the other layers of the cycles and the other lyrics in the song. And you'll get to hear the song itself. So y'all take care, be well, and good night wherever you are. And we will talk again soon. Bye.